Staffing issues. If you own a gym, you're going to deal with them at some point. Today on Run a Profitable Gym, we're going to talk about how to get through the hard parts and come out stronger on the other side. I'm your host, Mike Warkentin. Please hit subscribe wherever you are with my thanks. My guest today, Chris Williams. He owns a pair of gyms in Tracy, California. Chris, welcome to the show. Are you ready to tell some war stories?
Oh yeah. No, I got a war chest of stories.
Let's open the chest and get right to it. I need to hear about the dark days so listeners know what you've been through. It'll make them feel better about what they're going through. What are the worst staffing problems that you've dealt with? Give me the dirt.
Man, I think when I first wanted to buy the gym, I was a prominent member. I was one of those fun time guys. So, yeah. That context switch was massive. And the GM at the time and the head coach were married, and they were very close friends of mine. We partied, hung out a lot, traveled. So when I took over the gym, I figured, all right, this would be a smooth transition. Like, the relationship's great, but it was just almost a flip. Like, the GM kind of just flipped and was more territorial and like accusatory. You're always looking over my shoulder. And I'm like, yeah, I'm learning what you do. I'm learning the business. I'm trying to orient myself into this new situation. But it was always spun as, oh, well, you're looking over my shoulder, you're micromanaging. Even if I would just be sitting there learning, taking notes and being actively telling her, I'm just learning. So explain stuff to me, answer this,
Where do we keep the toner for the photocopier, right? Like, that kind of stuff.
Well, that relationship between the husband and wife fractured due to some illicit issues.
Okay.
And then suddenly she quit. He quit, and she wanted to party, right? To like commemorate her time. Behind my back, he threw the party and coached it, which was like, made it look like I planned this as like an FU to her.
Oh. Yeah.
So this whole thing happened behind my back. It was a him getting at me, her getting right, but also getting at her. And it was just, so I just kind of let my guard down a little too much with people that I thought were close friends. And it turned out to be kind of a disaster.
Yeah. So you're coming into this, you're just trying to figure out a business, but you're going from the fun guy to the boss, and you got to sort everything out, but you can't because you've got like things going on in the middle that you can't control.
Right. And I'm making mistakes in terms of what I'm telling them or, talking to them as a friend when I'm realizing I should be talking to them as a boss. And
that's hard because you were the friend at one point.
Right. I had to really switch context and realize I have to have other people to vent to that are not members or staff of my gym because they're seeing it from an angle they'll never understand.
This is so common because we all hire our friends.
Yep. Yep. Or you inherit a gym that all your friends work at.
That's the other one right there. So did you manage to, we'll get to the sorting things out thing. You got any other good ones in there that were gnarly?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Like, give me a few more.
I'll give you some context on this one. So coach has been with us since before I had been a member. So it must have been at this point 8 years plus. Very prominent member and, part-time coach. Pandemic hits. I'm watching my full-time coaches struggle to live. I'm doing everything I can to help. But at that point, I had a realization that my full-time coaches need to be truly full-time. They needed the opportunities to make a real full-time living. So if anything ever happened again, they could succeed and make it through and have some savings and everything else. And I need to do a better job of offering those opportunities. So coming out of the pandemic, she's got all sorts of personal political stuff. Her husband's a cop. It's just an issue. There's just issues all over California at the time. And it's a really heightened socio-political situation, environment in the gym. So trying to navigate all these things. And I sat every single coach down and I said, hey, listen, you're part-time. Here's something I want you to work on. Here's what I'm working on. We're all going to work on these improvements as we roll the gym back out. What I can guarantee you is as the full-timers get settled, you'll have classes again. But until we're back to a full schedule, full-timers are getting priority. Everybody was fine with that, other than this one coach. Oh, they want me to work on anatomy. They don't think I know what I'm talking about. They don't think I'm good enough.
Oh.
I deserve classes over full-timers because I've been here longer.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a tough spot because like the pandemic you had to make hard decisions and you're doing this to try and preserve what you can because of all the restrictions and all the chaos going on. And now you're stuck with this person who's just pushing back.
Right. And I know they had a lot of personal issues going on. And I think a lot of that came to fruition. I think she was ready for a change in terms of her own fitness and what she was doing. And this was just a great out. And something I'll point out, if you've ever been there or if you haven't been there, you're going to be there no matter what, even in a positive exit. If they want to, you're going to be the villain every time.
Yeah.
If they feel uncomfortable telling people the real reason they left, I got a better job, I needed a change in my fitness environment, I just wasn't getting enough hours, whatever it is, generally speaking, they're not going to be willing. If they're uncomfortable saying that, they're just going to throw it on you. He's an a-hole. He's, a monster. He treated me poorly, turned his back on me, whatever it takes to get the spotlight off them.
So did that happened?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's essentially what happened.
And you hear that a lot with people where coaches, for whatever reason, have to be let go or they choose to go. And then they just leave these like Kool-Aid man, gaping, burning holes in the wall on their way out. Right. And it's bad. Anything else in the tickle trunk?
Oh yeah. So
we're just getting started.
I had a GM a couple of years ago who was going through her own issues. Again, seems to be the common theme. And, at one point, I just won some awards, and she felt she deserved the spotlight for those awards. So I got sat down and told, you don't deserve those. The spotlight should be on me and the staff, and like you should be thanking me. And I'm like, the award is for staff development, right? It's an award I got because I put the money and time into developing you guys and giving you these opportunities. So I'm not sure how that is a staff award. Or an award for someone that is literally getting thousands of dollars in development every month. You have your own mentor. You go to things like the Two Brain Summit. You go to other summits for other parts of the industry. Like, not sure where this is coming from. Fast forward about a year. My goal with my GMs is always, this is a stepping stone for you. 2 to 5 years max, but really 2 to 3 years. You should be putting your resume out there, seeing what you're worth. And for a lot of them, at least 2 out of the 3 I've had, they've stepped up to 6-figure incomes when they do that. So for me, I'm always telling them, put your resume out there. At around 2 years, start putting your resume out there. I know I can't give you $100,000 a year. Just the job does not require that, and the skill level isn't there. But your resume is going to speak to someone that can do a 6-figure income job. So did that, gave the notice. Apparently I wasn't upset enough about her leaving. And having developed my personal assistant to become a leader in the company, I had an immediate segue.
Yeah.
So it wasn't this long drawn out, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know how we'll replace you. Just public fireworks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 3 of your many stories of just negative stuff. And listeners, you probably have your own stories out there, or you've heard of stuff. I have heard so much stuff. When I put this post up asking who's in our Tinker group, who's dealt with staffing problems, we got a bunch of crazy stuff in there. Everyone's dealt with it. You are not alone. You're not the only person. Our most successful gym owners, that's the Tinkers. They are, millionaire gym owners, essentially running very profitable enterprises. They've all dealt with staffing issues. It's part of the game. HR is a difficult thing. So you're not alone. And we're going to talk about some solutions for some of this stuff. Chris, talk to me about, like, when you were going through these tough times, how did you feel about your business? And then how do these problems affect clients? Because let's really talk where the rubber meets the road, because the clients have to be happy. And if they're not, you got an even bigger problem than staff problems.
What I've found countless times, that I mentioned the 3, I've probably had at least 20 other member or other, ego situations. What I've come to find is people are what I call front page news chasers. They want the headline of the day. That headline is going to last a week, 2 weeks tops before a new headline hits the world, and they're all running to flock to gawk at that new thing. And I always use this example because it just blew me away. We'd be in a CrossFit owner Facebook group, and a guy would get caught doing something very pervy with cameras and whatever. And that comment section would flood for about 8 days until the new drama hits the group. Silence. and this guy is completely forgotten about. So to me, there's really no thing that you can do, even if you were completely in the wrong. There is nothing, unless it's something super egregious, and like what that guy did with the bathrooms and the camera. It's like, if it's nothing egregious, if it's just simple human error, or maybe emotions got the best of you, or they're just in their own fields and making you out to be a monster, you just got to weather it for a little bit, and that next headline's going to hit, and then this is going to be forgotten about. It's old news.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I didn't deal with like really horrible staff, people exiting and so forth, but I did deal with changes. And it was hard because there were people that were very closely tied into the fabric of the business. And I was just terrified that when they leave, everyone would leave. And so, listeners, if you're out there, time heals all wounds, and it's not going to be bad as you think. You have to, Chris Cooper has one that he says, if the only way out is through, and you just have to kind of weather the storm. The best thing you can do is keep moving forward and realize that like the staff people are not your business. They can be a huge part of your business, and it's on you as the owner to develop them and make them part of that. But if you do have to make a change for the benefit of the business and your clients, you have to do that and keep pushing through. Let's talk a little bit about that. You talked about being a new gym owner and so forth. What was the first step to solving these staffing problems, and how did you find the courage to take it? Because it is hard. HR is not up my alley. I struggle with it. Many people do.
So first thing I did when I bought the gym was I realized everybody was being paid the same, regardless of their skill level, certification level, education, etc. So I created a tiered system. I borrowed one from Jason Kalipa. I went searching through the doldrums of the Facebook groups and found everything I could and kind of compiled my own version. So people had a ladder of achievement. They didn't feel like, all right, now I'm a coach. That's it. There's no more. I can't grow. There's no reason to get better. The first thing I instilled was we have a growth mindset here. Everybody should be constantly growing. I offer continuing education credit up to $1,000 for my top tier coaches, because if you're at that level, your education is much like you're going to really high level certs to get any new information. So I want to make sure they feel like it's valuable to do. And that really helped. It kind of flushed out those people that were happy to just be here with a free membership and like work out with their friends, because they just end up working out in class if there was all their friends. And it just ridded us of the amateur belief system and allowed us to bring in a fresh wave of professionals that clearly did not fully separate itself until after the pandemic.
So would it be fair to say that systemizing and professionalizing your business was the first step to starting to solve staff problems?
Yeah, not to say to the old owners to give them credit. It was very professionalized. There was just certain parts of the HR that needed work and elevation, because I could see that people were very much in that like cruise control mode. There was no need to get better. There was no need to improve. There was no need to professionalize, because the money's never getting better. It's never going to change my worth. It's never going to change what's expected of me.
When you bought the business, were there documented roles, responsibilities, and contracts and everything?
There was some expectations and basic guidelines, but when I created that tiered system, I was able to elevate that and make it more specific based on your role, based on, you're a level 1 CrossFit coach. You want to get paid more. You have a couple options. You can go get your CrossFit level 2, or you can coach X amount of classes a week, elevate the amount of classes you coach, because now you're increasing the value of your time, because you're helping me make sure I'm not constantly scrambling to cover.
Did you do any real work after that to start looking at like roles and responsibilities and like clearly making adjustments there? And then the other question after that, so you've done that. How did you put in like staff evaluations and a regular schedule, that kind of thing?
I wish I would have. Not until I got with Two Brain did I realize how important that stuff is. As very much a visionary, like 95, 98 on the visionary scale. I think it's the integrator visionary scale. Like I'm up in the 90s, and my GM is up in the 90s as an operator. So we balance each other out. I'm generally up in the cloud. So, things like reviews and, consistent coaching and consistent management wasn't in my toolbox until I went out and got mentors to help me, realize these things are important.
Well, let's dig into that. And that's like, how does a mentor fit into this plan? Because again, you came into this, you bought this business, you had to sort out some stuff that was gnarly. And I didn't do that. I didn't buy it. I started one, but I didn't know anything. I have no clue what I was doing. I could teach a squat and that was about it. And I got myself into trouble as well. So where does a mentor come in, and how does that help you then solve and prevent staff problems and create careers?
I think it's a lot about finding someone that's carved a path you're trying to walk. So if you're walking through the jungle, which is essentially what it is when you're starting or buying a business that isn't professionalized to that level, you're walking through the jungle and just kind of macheting your way through, not really sure if you're going in the right direction, if you've been going in circles, if you're going backwards, you have no idea, right? You're walking completely blind. When you get a mentor, they kind of pull the foliage up and go, hey, look at this path that's already been carved. Why don't you go this way? And then
it's
you get
way
to those
easier and
forks.
shorter.
Yeah, you go to these forks in the road and they go, well, you could go that way. And I support you if you do, but I would recommend exploring this path. And here's why, because here's what I've seen during my years and how I got to where I'm at. So it's just a lot of it's a lot of guidance. I always say the mentor is the guide and the mentee is the hero. So their job is just to kind of guide you along the path and make sure that you're supported. And, when you are stressing out because an employee decided to run your name through the mud and try to wreck your image in town, they're there to listen and allow you to vent. Or when I might have told my mentor that I'm glad I have a lot of firefighters here because I'm ready to burn this place to the ground. It's good to have someone that can go, yeah, it's a good idea, but why don't we try maybe going for a 30-minute walk and then see if you still want to burn it to the ground? It's a good idea. I'll go, So sometimes it's little things. Sometimes it's bigger, like, hey, we need to completely change your pricing and delivery of your sales.
Yeah. And it can be as simple as, and here's a common one. You can trade a membership for part-time coaching, or you can document roles and responsibilities and create a fair hourly rate that then you pay to those coaches, and you build this into your profit and loss statement so that these costs are accounted for in a very clear way. So at some point, if you want to offload more of the roles or the classes that you coach as the owner, you can do that because the price and these costs are built in. Stuff like that, where because I ran into problems with that, where I hired all my friends at the beginning. It's like, these are the best people, send them across with level 1. And they turned out they were great coaches, but they only coach, say, 8 classes a month or something like that, which isn't a bad thing, but it's hard to build a business without a stable presence of staff. That was me originally, but I couldn't handle the volume of that. So I had to start pushing stuff out elsewhere, and I didn't know how to do it. I also didn't have the funds to do it because everything was traded for free. Membership. I had I didn't pay myself. It was a disaster. So a mentor can help you see these things right away and say, wait a second, we have to take a hard look at this and make sure that we take the right steps so that you end up in the right spot. A big part of it for me also was contracts and roles and responsibilities listed out, because you were good. You had that before I did. I didn't have that stuff. And it was just like, coach a class, be good at it. And luckily my coaches happened to be pretty good at it and it worked out okay, but there was no formal, SOPs, procedures, and things got a little weird at times because people would create their own adventures. And once I systemized things and said, this is the staff playbook, this is the way it goes, things went much, much better because people were on the same page, and it allowed you to hire better. That's a question I'll ask you. Because you have your business more or less systemized and you have these things down, is it much easier to hire and find new people and bring them in?
I think with coaching, it's as difficult, if not more difficult than ever. I think the pandemic really changed the environment. A lot of coaches switched careers. Yeah, so a lot of career coaches abandoned this industry because honestly, as owners, we were barely getting by. So I'm sure a lot of professional coaches felt abandoned. Yeah. They felt like these guys can't help me now. I got to get to somewhere that can help me if something like this happens again. And I don't blame them. Mm-hmm. So I think the career coach thing is a lot more difficult to find these days. I think what we're finding is hiring from within and cultivating coaches out of our membership are great for group. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily recommend that if you're looking for someone that's going to do PT, semi-private, a little higher level, high ticket options. But, in terms of a group coach, they've got bit by the bug of whatever you're doing. They love what you do. They have experience what a great class feels like. They know what it is. Mm-hmm. They just need to be taught how to do it themselves, how to replicate that. So for us, we found a lot of success hiring from within. One caveat to that is we've realized even with bench coaches, there's a lot of free memberships if you're giving a membership as employment perks. So we've switched to a minimum of 10 classes a month or a 4-hour shift a week. So they could be an admin. They could be the maintenance guy and help us with fixing bikes and rowers and other things if that's something they're really good at. And they come in on like a Sunday and they do that. But whatever it is, they're doing some sort of 4-hour shift or coaching 10 hours a month. That qualifies you for a free membership. Otherwise, you're still paying a membership and we pay you to coach.
So structure, you've got structure in place and you've got a plan in place, which are two huge things. I'll ask you this. How do you prevent your staffing issues? You covered a lot of stuff, but I'm wondering if you have any specifics of how you prevent staffing issues from arising. And what's your plan if something does pop up? How are you going to roll out your fix?
So we prevented a lot of things over the years from communication. Roadmap meetings, constant communication. But the number one thing that I think everyone struggles with, myself included, is taking action when it's a little tiny ember, right? It's a little tiny hot ember. Yep. Go walk up, have that, what you think is going to be a really difficult conversation that we've played out in our head to be a massive issue. And it generally turns out to be, oh, my bad. I didn't even realize I was doing that. I'll get that corrected. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. And it's done. And that ember's out. But you let it sit there and then it catches a little bit of grass and then it catches the tall yellow grass. And then you've got this massive fire and it's spread to other people who are now pointing at each other going, well, you didn't tell that person to do that. Well, that person does that wrong. And that person, because now you've got them on the defense because you're pissed and you're probably coming at them from an aggressive standpoint rather than a caring one. So for me, that's the number one thing is take action early. Nip it in the bud as fast as possible.
Yeah. And do you do that on the fly or do you have standardized scheduled meetings with coaches?
We have standardized scheduled meetings, but at the same time, if something is going awry, I don't have a problem walking in and just going, hey, I noticed you're not wearing a CFT shirt. Did you just forget it? Is it right? Oh yeah, I totally forgot it. I promise, like, this is a one-time thing. It won't happen again. Cool, no problem. They're aware, you're aware. If it happens again, obviously it gets a little bit more serious of a conversation. But you know, sometimes it's just as simple as like letting them know that you saw it and them getting the chance to let you know that they're aware and that they care. So there's no awkward silence or uneasy around each other because you're both kind of afraid to broach the subject.
I'll give you a shameful example from my own past. We had a back door from a parking lot where I'm here. It's cold and crappy. So there's always like in winter, it's like dirt and muck and salt and whatever and sand. So people would come in the back door, the coaches, they'd walk across the training floor and turn off the alarm and open the front door. And they would inevitably leave these gigantic, ugly footprints and leave muddy boots in stupid places. And I could not bring myself to step on that ember. Instead, I got passive aggressive and I drew giant chalk circles around the feet and said, stop doing this and ridiculous stuff like that. Just shameful. If I had just had that conversation and said, hey man, take shoes off the back door, or to the entire staff, it would have been so much better. But instead I let that one just sit and I got madder and madder. And eventually it came out in one of those everything ketchup bottle things where I'm mad about this and this and this and the shoes, right? And it's just like, that's not a good way to be a boss. And so Chris Krupa's talked about this one. Have these regular meetings with your coaches. Yep. And Oscar Johed, one of our mentors in Sweden, gave another tip saying, tell them at every single meeting, you'll give them something to work on. That means that A, you don't have meetings only when you're mad. So people know they're coming. They know as soon as like, hey, Chris, let's have a meeting. And you're like, oh God, now what? You know, it's not one of those. It's like, it's regularly scheduled programming. Everything's fine. And they know at that meeting, they're going to get something to work on. So you talked about that one coach is like, oh, everything's fine. I don't need to work on anatomy or whatever. They know you're getting some piece of feedback to make you better because continual improvement is part of our mission here at this gym, something like that. So those are two huge things. Do you have regular staff meetings, Chris?
We have a quarterly all staff meeting. So everybody comes together. We do lunch. We break things down. I talk about the quarterly focus. And then we're bringing back, now that we have a new head coach in place, we're bringing back monthly coach meetings where we'll have somebody come in and do a development talk. So it'll be like a talk. Like we have a coach coming in tomorrow, Saturday, that will discuss semi-private, like programming, retention, because that's all he does over here at my other gym, Altamont Performance Lab. So he's an expert on this. He's been doing personal training for 20 years. So he's going to come drop knowledge on our CrossFit coaches who aren't as comfortable with programming for a private or semi-private strength focused client. They're not as comfortable with how do I retain someone and keep the communication positive and fun for 60 minutes with just 1 or 4 people versus 15. So we're starting that cadence. We do monthly non-mandatory staff dinners. So I will either take them out to dinner somewhere fun,
I like
or
that.
I'll host
like
a dinner at my house. Like I love to barbecue, so I'll host them at the house. One of my other staff just bought a cool house with a party backyard, so she's inviting them all over her house for one in July. So yeah, we try to do that every month.
I like the non-mandatory part where it's like, this is just a casual thing. You want to come? Cool. If you can't, no worries. But it's a team building. I like that a lot. And then you mentioned it before. I just want to confirm it. Career individual stuff. How often does that happen? Or performance reviews?
Roadmaps are probably every 90 to 100 to 6 months, depending on where they're at. We try to at least get it twice a year. For our newer staff, it's probably every 90 days for the first year, just to make sure that, like, if they're improving rapidly or if things aren't working, we can kind of, the old proverbial get them in the right seat if they're in the wrong seat. Because a lot of times we have the right personality, that we just have them in the wrong seat. So we need to be able to be flexible and get that done quickly, so we can keep these right personalities and right attitudes and just get them somewhere where they're more, functional.
So 2 to 4 times a year, you're meeting with the coaches. And does that include evaluations in there as well? Or is that something you do separately?
So evaluations, we're planning formal evaluations every 6 months for a year.
Yep. Okay.
And then I think my head coach said she's going to do informal monthly. So just poking in, giving them some feedback. If they have something really, really glaring that they're working on, she's going to be more formal with her reviews to make sure that they're improving rapidly. We also have a coach that's the head of coaching development. So if it's something really glaring on the coaching side, they'll go work with him to specifically improve that part of their game. But for the most part, our coaches, it's a lot more of like, hey, you're getting to people 2 times a class, get to them a 3rd time. Just be more aware, be more mindful of your time management, or maybe they're afraid to cue the veteran people that can lift more than them, or maybe they feel like have better technique. And I always tell them there's always something you can give them, always, even if it's a joke, like, hey, your left foot's a fraction of an inch ahead of your right. Go ahead and clean that up. They find that funny. They get it. They know what's going on. They know you're trying to find something, and they appreciate it.
But what I see here from you is you have scheduled stuff. So I've asked you, like, when are you doing what? And you've got an answer for all of that. But then you also have someone whose job, your head coach, is to check on things regularly. So there's almost this, I mean, it's not informal, but it's not a scheduled meeting, but it's just like, hey, let's try this or do things. So someone is responsible for improving your coaches. Two Brain listeners, if you're a client, I've got some very exciting stuff. Carl Solberg and Oscar Johed are going to be talking about coach ascension models at the Two Brain Summit and rolling out some very, very exciting stuff available for Two Brain clients. I've seen these spreadsheets. They are incredible. And it talks about all the different ways that you can evaluate and develop coaches to make careers for them. This includes like how to pay them more and how to do these things. So if you're coming to the Two Brain Summit, you're in for a real treat. And I hope you guys will take a look at that talk. As we close this out, Chris, I'm going to ask you this one. So gym owners are out there. If they've clicked into this show, they're probably because they have a stressful problem on their hands right now. How can a gym owner who's dealing with a staffing problem today start solving it right away after she stops listening to this show?
Prioritize the importance of that situation. So for us, naturally, we're going to put the most intimidating conversations at the bottom of the list and try to hide them and bury them as far down as you can go.
Yeah.
But realistically, you should be starting with the hardest conversations at the top of your list, because a lot of times those are the ones that are causing 80% of your problems.
Rip the Band-Aid off, eh?
Right. Because if you rip the Band-Aid off, you might find it's a festering wound that's literally causing all of your problems. And getting this one thing done all of a sudden alleviates 80, 90% of your stress about all these things on your list. And you realize, oh, I've just got a couple real easy conversations left. And I don't think we realize it because we kind of just put our blinders on and, hope for the best with these things.
Yeah. And if you're like me, if you're avoiding something and you're putting stuff in front of that, you're not giving your full attention to the stuff you should be focusing on because it's just solely there to get in the way of the stuff you should be doing. Are you very direct? Like when you talk to someone, staff members now, does that get easier? Like is it easier to step on that ember and just say, hey, dude, this is wrong. Can you fix that? Or is it still that squidgy, got to work yourself up for it?
So it's a little bit of both. I'm fortunate that I have a management layer in between. So I don't have a lot of these like simple conversations anymore because I really am not in the day to day as much as I used to be.
Nice.
But when it comes down to like higher level conversations, or even I have to have these conversations with my management team.
Right.
Your management team is not you. They're not perfect. You're not perfect. These same things, I still have to manage them, and I still have to be like on top of things that I can't allow to slide. Like, hey, communication's not where it needs to be. I'm noticing texts are falling through. What can we do to systemize this and fix it? Or what was the most recent one? I think we were just having some issues with billing and things falling through the cracks. And hey, are we calling these people? What are we doing? A lot of times it's just a question. If you frame it as a question rather than a, hey, you're doing this, it's a, hey, this is going on. What do you think? Is there something that we can do to get better?
That's a good one. That's much less confrontational.
Right. If you approach it from a care versus confrontation standpoint, you're going to get a completely different response. You're not going to put them on the defensive. You're not going to put them in a position of like, all of a sudden they're in fight or flight. They're thinking, I'm about to get fired. Like this is going to go terrible, because they think the same way you do. We're all human. We all go to the immediate worst case scenario. So if you're putting them in that confrontational space, they're immediately going, I'm about to get fired. So screw it. I'm going to let them have it.
Yeah. And that's when you start getting holes burned in on the way out and so forth. So I think the best plan here for you listeners is, if you got a staffing problem right now, address it head on. Get it out of your way so you can get back to growing your business. If you're struggling with that badly, I'd encourage you to use the link in the show notes, book a call, and talk to Two Brain Mentor about it. What you do there is you're going to get everything in your business is going to get analyzed, including staffing problems, and a mentor can show you, as Chris said, this is the path I think we should take. Here are your options. This is probably the preferred one. If we go this route, this is how you do it. It's a step-by-step plan that helps you systemize your business, get the right people in the right seats, and then help them improve through mentorship, because you will become mentor to your staff, and then build a business where coaches have great careers and get great results for clients. It's a whole system. Chris, it worked for you, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Our revenue's through the roof. I have the right team in place. I am almost completely removed from both of the businesses. So I'm living the dream.
And this is after coming in. Yeah. And this is after coming in with fires to put out immediately as an owner.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much for being here, Chris. I appreciate your time and sharing your war stories and your solutions with gym owners.
My pleasure. Happy to help, Mike. Thanks.
That was Chris Williams. This is Run a Profitable Gym. Thanks so much for listening. Please hit subscribe on the way out with my thanks. And now here's Two Brain founder Chris Cooper with a final message for you.
Hey, it's Two Brain founder Chris Cooper with a quick note. We created the Gym Owners United Facebook group to help you run a profitable gym. Thousands of gym owners just like you have already joined. In the group, we share sound advice about the business of fitness every day. I answer questions, I run free webinars, and I give away all kinds of great resources to help you grow your gym. I'd love to have you in that group. It's Gym Owners United on Facebook, or go to gymownersunited.com to join. Do it today.